I don't think that people are expecting much from CJI, other than we're gonna fight for $1 million.
Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Main Idea podcast, where today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Samir Chantre. For those of you that want to see this show grow in 2024, please take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Spotify. Last week, a couple more of you went on there, clicked the little drop-down menu, and submitted the 5-star review. This helps so much with organic show growth. I really can't stress that enough. That's why I take 15 seconds at the beginning of every single episode to ask those of you listeners that are showing up every single week to do this. I really, really appreciate it, and it goes such a long way. The other way that you can support this show is by simply sharing it with someone who loves jiu-jitsu, strength and conditioning, or human performance. Samir Chantre is a jiu-jitsu black belt, 3-time ADCC world no-gi champion, co-founder of Ares Jiu Jitsu, and current manager to some of jiu-jitsu's biggest names. To support this show, please check out the sponsors in the show notes. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Samir Chantre. Well, Samir, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me on the show. It's been a pleasure to host some of your athletes. I'm excited to talk about the business side of this incredible art, but also a little bit about your story and your journey through jiu-jitsu. So thank you for taking your time to be here.
Thank you for the invite. It's a pleasure, and I'm always excited about sharing not only um, my career, my journey, but also like talk about jujitsu and what it has become. It's definitely it's a pleasure, and um, can't wait. So
What was your introduction into jiu-jitsu? Was this something that was introduced to you at a super young age? Did you grow up doing it, or what drew you into this incredible thing that we all find ourselves spending so much time doing?
yeah, so I started was really young. I was 8 years old. My brother started doing. My brother, I have an older brother. He started doing, and then I was always into soccer. Never really had to do with any fighting sport. And then he was like, I went to one of his belt promotions. He was going to get promoted to yellow belt, and and then all his instructors, they were like, "Ah, you pretty athletic kids, jump in, try it out, and this and that." And I was like, "Ah, okay, I'll give it a try." So next day I was there, trying it out, and I loved it. I loved it, and yeah, and that's how I actually started.
How was that your first experiences with jiu-jitsu? Like you're a young kid. Did you feel like you had a grasp on what was going on? Was it something you kind of picked up easily because you're playing other sports, you're doing other things, you're active, or was there a big gap and you're like, oh wow, I really got to figure this thing out?
Not at all. I was always very like I mentioned, I was always a very athletic kid, and uh, I was always I had always very easy time with sports in general. You know,
Mhm.
uh, like I think I've played every single sport you can imagine. And I've done all kind of fighting sports too. I loved it. Was always my life. Like my life was always around sports. I used to
Yep.
even joke around, like when I was a kid, when I would jump through schools.
Mhm.
Uh, it would take one PE day for me to basically be the kid in school. Like
Yeah.
no one would really know me until, okay, today is activity day. Now everyone's gonna know
Yep.
about me, because I was always really good at soccer. Even though
Yep.
I'm short, I was always really good at volleyball or basketball, whatever. Whatever they had there. So that's how, like, always had an easy time with sports. Not the easiest time in school, but the easy time in,
Yeah.
in sports. So yeah, it was pretty easy for me. Honestly, I spent like very little time. Honestly, at a white belt. I think I was a white belt for like 2 months, and
Oh wow, nice.
I went to yellow belt, and then I started moving up into the belts.
What are your thoughts on the belt system? As someone who's been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time, and you've learned under, some of the greatest athletes in the sport, and yourself a competitor, a representative, having seen so many different sides of this art, this sport, what are your thoughts on belt rankings, their value, how people kind of ascend up the ranks?
Yeah, true. I think the thing is like, and it's that that's the same with jujitsu too. And I feel that even the rules, there are a lot of improvements that can be made, but at the same time, uh, why there are so much more uh, argument about it lately? Because jiu-jitsu has been improving in a speed like
Yeah.
that has never done it before. So things that we had in the past and no one used to talk about, now people are realizing that we have to improve on those aspects too, right?
Mhm.
I thought it was a great change that, hey, if you win worlds, you can get your belt. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to respect the time. Man, like, you want worlds, what else you need to do in that belt?
Right.
Like, you just win worlds nowadays is just something like ever always, right? It's just something like uh extraordinary. And if you're out of the ordinary for that belt, you must
Right.
like, you can jump into the other one. So, and I remember before time, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2004. That was, or 4 or 5, one or the other. That was when they implemented the rule about actually uh, putting time into the belt, right? So you have
Yeah.
to, from white to blue 1 year, from blue to purple 2 years, from purple to brown 1 year and a half, and from brown to black 1 year. So they came out with that. I believe it was 2004, and it was because of uh, I believe it was because of Gabriel Moraes. He won
Yeah.
he won worlds impressively. He won worlds as a purple belt. I believe it was 2002, and then 2003 he won as a black belt. I think it was something like
Wow.
this. It was pretty impressive. And then there was even Kyle. Kyle was one of them that had to Kyotera. He was one of
Yep.
them that had to. He was suspended for a little bit because he was actually the first person to be suspended. I believe him and Ivaniel. I believe
Yep.
both of them were the first ones to be suspended because of that rule, because they got promoted super fast, also in 2004, 2005, something like that. So uh, they adapted the rule for what was happening at that time, and
Right.
now they readapted for what's happening right now. So, and it happens a lot with the rule set too, like the rules itself. So there, I think not only WJF but the jiu-jitsu community is always trying to find that balance in terms of, hey, changes needs to be done, but we got to find a balance so we don't drastically change something one day to another, and then millions of jiu-jitsu practitioners around the world to be just lost. you know
Right.
and
Yeah.
and we can change it. We can't have a change every 6 months either. But jiu-jitsu is being developed so much, so fast. You can see blue belts, they're fighting the professional scenes, especially with no gi. They're fighting
Yeah.
the professional scene already. And what we're gonna say, like, hey, no, you don't deserve to be fighting there. Some of them are winning. So
Right.
they're like, we saw Nicky Rod, what he did in ADCC 2021 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh
22. 22.
22, yeah. We saw what Ty Rutolo did. uh um I think. Oh, no, no, not 2022. I think it was 2021 when Nicky Rod went to. He was still a blue belt. He went to the finals. I think he beat Cyborg. He beat Muhammad. Yeah, we had. Yeah, it was the one before that he actually came out. Boom! Last year, the
Oh,
last
20,
time.
you mean 2020? Because it was 2020 ADCC and then 2022, and then this year will be 2024. Every
Yeah,
two,
yeah,
right?
no, but
So it would have
yeah,
been the
I was.
2020.
Yeah, I just think they postponed it because of COVID, and it was
Oh,
end up being
right, right, right,
2021, right? I
right.
think it was. If I'm honest, I think it was that. And yeah, and that was that was when people actually heard about him. Like that's when I heard about him. I was like,
Yeah.
who's that blue belt? From Danaher, who's the blue belt
Yeah.
beating
Killing people.
Cyborg? Exactly. He beat Orlando Sanchez, Cyborg, and Muhammad. That was
Yeah.
crazy. And then we had Ty in 2022. No, actually, Ty the same one in 2021 as a blue belt, where he he lost in the semis, I believe, to he lost the semis to Kennedy, I believe. Yeah, and then he lost the third place match against Paulo. So as a blue belt, he went so far, like that much far. So uh,
Right.
uh, it's just like I said. I think we're gonna have to adapt every time. Like because jiu-jitsu has been just improving, developing so much in the business
Yeah.
aspect, in the rule aspect, in the technique aspect. So I think there's more to come. There's more. There's more changes to come. I believe. And hopefully those changes are from the best. I'm sure, of course, the intentions are always going to be to change for the best.
Uh-huh.
But it's always going to split the opinions, of course.
Yeah, I think that ADCC is an interesting facet of the sport because you can have people that would otherwise not be competing against more skilled people come through and they can perform as those guys did, and you see a big jump in skill. But it's different than the belt system because you're like, wait, that guy's a blue belt. That's insane. How is he doing that? But it allows for athleticism and like wrestling pedigree to kind of supersedes certain other aspects that you wouldn't see in the gi because it's so grip technical. And so it I think it lends itself a little bit more to that. What did you think of Worlds this year?
I think it was amazing.
So
I
do
think it was
I.
amazing and epic. Honestly, I think
Yeah.
it's definitely in the history books. I
Yes.
believe Worlds this year comes back to what we were just talking about. It just showed that the level was just so high. I even mentioned that in my Instagram stories talking about worlds, and I said that we have an expression in Portuguese that says that o muro tá alto. It says like the fence is really high right now,
Yeah.
like it's level up so much for the top, like uh, it everyone like I can attribute that to so many different things, but I think now like it's starting to level up so high that uh, anything can happen. Like I
Yeah.
mentioned, how featherweight division we had three world champions. We had the world champion from 2021. We had the world champion from 2022, and we had the world champion from 2023. And all of them, none of them actually made to the second day.
Crazy.
Which is
It's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, which is crazy.
I mean, it
Uh,
was high level. It was high level. Like it just, I felt like I'm biased because I love training in the gi as much as I love training no gi. So I'm not a good person to ask, but I still thought watching it that it was actually a really exciting event. And to see moments like Adam winning, for the first time in ever, that moment was like, those are moments that you try to pay for in other sports, right? That's home run. That's like the biggest moments in sports that you hope happen. They were happening at Worlds
yeah,
live, and that was super special because it makes it exciting, and you see how hard these guys are working. They're all so freaking talented, man. Like they're so talented, and everyone is performing at their peak, and yet still some guys are, they're winning. It's so wild.
yeah, yeah. No, and I believe Adam had never medal
I
at
know,
all at Worlds, and then all of a
crazy to
sudden
me.
he wins. I think submitting all the matches, right? I believe he.
Yeah, I went back and watched like the highlight reel today, and in the short amount of time that I had to watch, I saw 3 of the submissions that he had. I mean, so not only was he in there competing and doing well, he's submitting top guys to get to that final moment of ultimately winning, which I think everyone in jiu-jitsu has wanted for him for so long.
Yeah.
So that was so cool.
Yeah, and not only him though. Like if you think about in the male black belt division,
Yep.
8 out of 10 they were first time winners in that weight class. 8 out of 10. It's
Wow.
pretty crazy, right? The only recurring champions were Diego Pato at light feather and Braguinha at middle heavy. That was it.
Diego looked
Uh,
really good.
yeah, yeah. Diego,
He's a
yeah,
problem, dude.
yeah, yep. He's a problem anywhere he goes.
I
Like,
think I think one thing that's cool, and I would love to hear your opinion on this because you do operate on the business side of jujitsu and martial arts. I think that moments like this past Worlds, sometimes I feel like sometimes in the chatter, gi jujitsu gets pushed away like, it's dying. There's no opportunity. But when you see guys like Mika, Adam, Diego perform the way that they did, undoubtedly those people are going to get opportunities in other promotions because of it, right? Like you want Diego to come and fight in your promotion now because of how well he performed in the most core version of the sport. And you know that his no-gi skill is incredible. So you see performances like that and you want them to come over. So when you look at something like this, like the world's performances, what are your thoughts on gi jiu-jitsu, its longevity, and what it does for an athlete in other areas of the sport? We've seen this with the Ruotola brothers. I'm excited to see where it goes for Mika, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think gi jitsu is still the most traditional, original, and it's mostly where people start training,
Mhm.
and I say that, like, I also uh own a gym and I have an association with many gyms under my umbrella, and the huge majority of the students, they come here, they come to learn with the gi. Why? They see as a more uh, traditional, they see as more they see more values in terms of like martial arts value. They
Mm.
see as something that they could have more longevity in training. They see no gi being a little bit more scrambly, more susceptible to injuries, So I believe the gi is never gonna die, And then we go to worlds and we see that in the highest level, it's also like that. Like you
Right.
see, I work very closely um, with promoters and with the IBJJF directors, and I even spoke to them. Hey, how's the registration for Worlds? Because it was packed. Like whoever was there, like it was packed. The venue was packed, and one of the most packed uh, last days that I've ever seen. The
Yep.
last day, Sunday, and I've been going to Worlds in the Pyramid since 2009. That was my first Worlds in the Pyramid. Of course, I've been to Worlds in Brazil too, but in the Pyramid was since 2009, and I believe this one was the fullest I've ever seen. And they were like, no, it's at the top, And then you see all the
Yep.
tournaments too. Did you see the kids tournament, the Brazilian Nationals for kids?
Yes.
Over
But
3,000
and
competitors.
dude, that okay, this I'm so glad you brought that up. That is a crucial fact because if kids are getting into the sport in mass, in multitudes of what they were before, within that cohort of children are your future champions. Those are your people
Exactly.
that are going to advance up and in the sport. So if that the bottom pool is growing every year, that's incredible. That
They
speaks
had
volumes for where the sport's headed.
Yeah, they had to split. Now we have two different Brazilian nationals. It was never like that.
Right.
It was always Brazilian nationals was 4 days, kids and then adults.
Yep.
Oh, it's 3 days, I believe, and then it went to four, and then it went to seven, and then it went to 10, and now we have two different tournaments.
Yeah.
Now we have kids Brazilian nationals and adults Brazilian nationals. So uh, like there's like whoever says I'm sorry, and I respect everyone's opinion, you know like I'm never gonna really bash anyone for their opinion. Everyone has their opinion, but man, like whoever says that gi jiu-jitsu is dying, they need to do a little bit more research, and if they do their research and they still have their opinion, okay, but I think they did they need to do a little bit more research. But I'll tell you something too. Professional fights.
Mhm.
As I mentioned, I work very closely with promoters and all that, and I hear from promoters when I'm trying to get a gi match for some of my athletes that no gi brings more views.
Mhm.
And why is that? Because, and that's their word, they're trying to pop the bubble,
Mhm.
and it's much more entertaining for people that don't train jiu-jitsu. You know,
Right.
um, like I've done MMA in the past, but I don't do MMA. But I still can watch MMA. Why? Because it's something that it's easier to relate. Even
Yes.
though, let's put this way, let's take my image off of it. Let's say a friend of mine. I have friends that had never trained jujitsu before, that had never trained
Same.
any type of martial arts, any type of
Yeah.
no fighting sports, and they watch MMA because it's easier to relate. They know what a good punch is. They know what a nice takedown is. They already can name a couple submissions, But jiu-jitsu, man, e- this is me.
Yeah.
I can watch 20 minutes of double guard pull. I can't because every grip change
Mhm.
I'm gonna be interested in.
Right.
If there is a grip change in that double guard pull, I'm already gonna be wondering why he's doing this and how is a person stopping that and what is he gonna go from there. Oh shoot! Oh nice, yeah, and this and that because I'm a student of the sport. I'm a student of the
Yes.
game. Like I'm super interested in every single aspect of body mechanic, technique, and everything. I'm a little nerd in terms of jiu-jitsu. So
Yeah.
uh, uh,
Cheers.
so but whoever doesn't train, if they see two people with their butt on the mat and scooting side to side and just moving
Right.
their head up, like it's so
Yeah.
but then we see guys like Mika, but then we see guys that are putting in jiu-jitsu Tainan and but a bunch of other guys that are putting like a lot of they're putting on a show in the competitions, man.
Mhm.
Like what Enego did these worlds, what uh, um, Mayron did these worlds. So you see guys like that. Of course, like even I believe even people that don't do jujitsu would be interested in that kind of
Right.
in that performance, But I do believe there is a little when they see a nogi and they can relate a little bit more, like they will see the gi. Oh, I don't really understand that sport, But when they see nogi, um, it's easier to understand. So I don't blame the federations, the promotions that are trying to bring more no-gi to the scene, because of
Yeah.
that. But like I said, there are so many beautiful matches in the gi. You still, then that I would appreciate seeing them more also in the professional events.
I've always felt too like that may be true, right? Like, let's say for a promoter, it might be easier to promote a no-gi match. Something about the quickness, the athleticism, the apparel, whatever it is that makes that come together is exciting for them. But there is another component to this, which is, and it has to do with children. When you talk about parents' willingness to let their kids get involved in martial arts, for example, uh, letting your kid get involved in a striking class is not going to be as common as letting your kid get involved in a class where they won't take any intentional blunt trauma to the head, and that factor alone will forever in the at least in the foreseeable future, it will guide where parents allow children to get involved. And so if your children are then involved in gi jiu-jitsu, that will be their starting point, and it's a much 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 more common starting point than combat sports, or even no gi can be seen as a little more aggressive. So for parents that are looking to mitigate the injury to their child, it's an easier door to walk through. And because of that, it will continue to be a huge point in the sport of fostering new athletes. And of course, that's not true for everyone. There will be the parents that are psyched that their kids are doing Muay Thai or that are getting involved in no-gi, but it'll keep fostering that group of people that start in and have a respect for gi. And who knows, maybe it won't surpass the ability for promoters to put on these no-gi matches, but it will continue to grow the sport in that regard. And I mean, if you're seeing that kind of growth in the Brasileiros, right? And now there's two events. That's just one, that's a concentration in a single country. I would be really interested to see if you pulled like numbers across the United States at how many kids are getting involved each year. It's got to be growing exponentially. It's
Absolutely.
such a good avenue for children to get involved in martial arts and to learn how to be in that environment or learn about yourself, right? Your ego and anger and aggression and all these emotions that you learn about and respect. It's an invaluable teacher. So like, why wouldn't you want to involve your kid in that if they're interested?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And like I said, I work, like I have my gym and I have many affiliations, and like we can see the difference in between the amount of practitioner in the gi or no gi. We see how much the kids are getting involved. I have gi classes and no gi classes in my gym for kids. The gi classes are far bigger, and um, a lot of we try our best to try not to uh, make to make it seem that there's a difference, like we try our
Yeah.
best to, like, no, it's not more aggressive, no, it's literally one has a gi on and the other one has a gi off. It's just a different, just so they can be more versatile, just so they can don't rely on grips and this and that, so they can evolve their jiu-jitsu even better. And then if they want to compete, we have some tournaments in the area that do both, so they can have more matches when they go to tournaments and all that. So we kind of have that speech, so it doesn't appear that, oh no, it's more aggressive or this and that. We always try to do that. uh but the reality is, like, a funny fact, like, even my mom me like she doesn't like me to do no gi more than gi, like, I was even joking with her the other day, and it was always like that.
Yeah.
And I told her, like, I've been training no gi a lot, and I told her because I'm going to compete in no gi. And I told her, and she was like, "Oh, nogi," and I'm like, "Yeah, that thing that I'm a 3-time world champion." And then she was like, and she started laughing, like, I was like, "Come on, like, I've been doing this for so long, and you're
Yeah.
still gonna give me that look, because I remember back in the days when I used to train only gi when I was younger,
Yeah.
but it pop up some no gi competition. It was so rare back in Brazil because it was that beef between jiu-jitsu and luta livre, right?
Right.
And so we would rarely do any no gi tournament, especially because I was from the Mecca, from the Carson Gracie school, like the HQ where most of that separation, that beef happened to, like. So I but when a tournament popped up, like, I think I competed in Brazil maybe 2 or 3 times with down a gi. And I remember all the go, and my mom was like, "Why are you gonna do no gi and this and that? You're training the gi. What is that? Is there punches or kicks?" So yeah. But then so a lot of people really don't. Uh, uh, so they see in different ways, like they
Yeah.
see the gi, they see as a martial arts. They see no gi, they see as a fighting sport.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get that from parents too. So but of course we want to try also to uh, uh, show them that is basically it's jujitsu without a gi, like,
Yeah.
which it is. That's what nogi stands for, right? So
Yeah. Literally. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we want to try to pass it along, but we know, like, I know from, like, uh, um from the experience that I have, even even from growing up, but also as a business owner, I see that feedback a lot.
I feel like it's a unless you want to be a world champion in a specific thing, because whenever you try to be elite in any sport, you really have to dedicate yourself to that thing. Like if you want to be a professional MMA fighter, you have to train everything and you really have to commit yourself. But if you are, you know, training jujitsu because you love it, it's something that it keeps you active and a good community and everything. I really feel like failing to do one or the other is a really a disservice to yourself because there's so much that you learn. There's so much positional awareness for gi jiu-jitsu that you learn from no gi training, and then there's so much technical position that you learn from gi training that transfers to no gi. So by doing the two interchangeably constantly, you just become a better practitioner. And I mean, there's even what like Hoyler would never train no-gi leading up to his no-gi competitions. And then he would just step out of the gi and train, and he would do great because he was showing that jujitsu was this transferable thing. I love both of them, and I advocate that people train them all the time. That's interesting though, thinking back to, when you're in Brazil, maybe you can take me back. Let's go time machine. So you're at HQ, Carlson Gracie. This is a legendary time in the development of jiu-jitsu, and also an interesting time because of the rift that started to grow between it. What was that like when you were there?
So I was super young, I
Mm,
was super young. I didn't see a lot of what happened, what was going on, but um, it also everything basically happened in my neighborhood.
mhm.
So I was super young, but the TV will talk about the fights that were going on and all that. We had the challenges between luta livre and jiu-jitsu. So there was a there was like that beef and the fights and everything, like that in my neighborhood, and me being there. But I was so
Yeah.
little. It was right when I started. It was right when I started, but I would hit it all, but not really, like was never into it or anything. Like I said, I was really young at that time. you know but basically everything happened there, like
Yeah.
not only between the academies that I was, and but also like everything would basically happen that in my neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, it was a pivotal time for sure in the growth of the sport. And then you look at all the influence in the United States and growth there. Having seen so many different elements of this and competed at the highest level yourself, what are your thoughts on this ADCC CJI thing that's going on right now? This is from an outsider looking in who's not involved in the business aspect of it, who's not competing at the highest level. I think it's kind of a win-win for the sport because as a whole, there's more talk about jujitsu. I have people asking me about this that don't have never even trained jujitsu in their life, and they'll send me something and say, "Hey, what's this Craig Jones thing?" And I'm like, "Well, how do you know who Craig Jones is?" And they're like, "Oh, we see, he's hilarious. You see him online doing this stuff." And I'm like, "Wow, that's wild. This pure jujitsu personality has transcended pop culture in some way. It's really interesting." And then I thought about it, I'm like, well, that's a net positive for jiu-jitsu because now you have, as a result of this, more people looking at the sport, more people connecting the gi, no gi dots, the ADCC, CJI, WNO, all these different promotions. You got the Ruotolo brothers over in one, winning, Cade won his debut, all this buzz again around jiu-jitsu. How do you see this ADCC CJI conundrum?
uh, so it's as you mentioned, I think everything for the growth of the sport, I appreciate. I've been there when I won my first worlds. I made $200 from my sponsor. You know, uh, I had
Don't
the
spend it all in one place.
right. I had the biggest sponsorship in the sport, basically like the biggest brand in the sport at that time.
Yeah.
and made
$200.
$200, but it's been a while. It's been a while.
And you won. That was from winning.
Yes, that was bonus
Jeez.
for winning. I didn't make any
Wow.
money, salary or anything at that time. No one would really make.
Yeah.
Uh, so I, I had a sponsorship that would pay for my registrations, and that was amazing for me. So
Yeah.
times changed. Times changed. A few years later, I had a salary that I could pay my rent. That helped me so
Wow.
much, and all that. Like, this is only a few years later you know
Right.
and now look where jiu-jitsu takes us. So and now we see like a tournament paying $1 million. So I could never in my life, while
Yeah.
I'm like I have sanity, saying like, oh no, this is bad for jiu-jitsu what Craig's doing.
Right.
Like, I could never say that. Saying that would go against everything I've preached my whole life, which is for the growth of jiu-jitsu. And then I see a
Right.
tournament paying $1 million, and I was like, oh, this is not cool what he's doing, and this and that. I can never say that. But I'll say, if it was me, I wouldn't try to compete in the same way, in the same day. I wouldn't put in the same day. I think he could be helping the jiu-jitsu as much putting a week after, or putting a couple weeks after, and just saying, hey,
Right.
look what you guys are competing for, and now look what you guys could be competing for. This
Right.
is. But then he'll give you a chance for jiu-jitsu, for athletes to do both, and to grow in different ways. To get the recognition that ADCC can do for you. The change in their career, but also the possibility of making $1 million. You know,
Right.
so I I appreciate that kind of money coming into the sport, and I love it. Uh, a lot of people ask me like, "Oh, one or the other. What do you think? You have your athletes. What do you think would be good for them to do, and this and that?" I was like, "Hey, every athlete's different.
Mhm.
Not every athlete's different, and the moment in their career is different too. You know, uh, I can tell you two different people. Uh, Fionn, she's in a position of her career that
Yeah.
she was ready to do CJI.
Yes.
At the same time, we have Gabriel, her boyfriend, who is in a time of his career, and also the weight class kind of favors doesn't really favor him because he's under 80 kilos and he's
Right.
66. But that time of his career, it will be better for him to do ADCC.
Right.
So boyfriend and girlfriend, two different people, two different
Right.
careers, different moments in their careers too. Different moments in their careers too, and they went different routes. So it's it's really personal in that time. Like, we just had Mika Galvão post, and that he decided to do ADCC. You know,
Right.
so there are I'm sure a lot of people are like, why? Like, he has so much chance to win that 80 kg. That's basically his weight class and all that. But that moment in his career, him and his
Mhm.
father, they decided that because of that moment that he's in his career, that he has done the Grand Slam, that for his career it'll be best if he does the Super Grand Slam, if he wins
Right.
ADCC. So I think as far as decision for athletes, there's no right or wrong. There
Right.
is the right for you and the wrong for you. This is what I see. And of course, no one's ever gonna be able to please everyone and say, hey, everyone will agree with me. It's never gonna be like that. We are made to think differently. Like, otherwise the world would be crazy. I don't know. We were made to think differently. So um um everyone will have their own decision, and based on the person, based on what they think it's best for them. And man, like, I would love to see that in 2 different days, because ADCC, it's such an amazing tournament, and that kind of money coming into jiu-jitsu will raise the bar. I don't think it will
For
raise the
sure.
bar. I don't think it will raise the bar to a million, but
Right.
it will raise the bar somehow. It will bring attention to jiu-jitsu too. More people, like you mentioned, that doesn't even train jiu-jitsu will see, and gives us the ability to. When I say that to my students, I say that to the kids here too. Like, hey,
Mhm.
I was able to kind of scrap the surface a little bit there, because towards the end of my professional career, we still had tournaments that would pay well, you know.
Mhm.
But now everything is already taking like taking off. So
Yep.
by the time those kids get to their professional career, they're going to be able to make a really good living off of jiu-jitsu. And this is even
Right.
a good sales point for us to tell people, like, hey, you can dedicate yourself, and to tell the parents, hey, that kid can do really well for herself with jiu-jitsu. She's super talented. She can grow. She can be super good, and she can make a lot of money with jiu-jitsu. Because look at this
Yeah.
tournament paying $1 million, and this is
Right.
2024. Imagine what's going to be in 2030. you know
Totally.
so
Yeah. I thought the Craig Jones thing I thought was interesting because I agree with you. If the true sentiment is that you're doing it for the growth of the sport and for the respective athletes, then you give the athletes the opportunity to earn double and double their exposure. So you would allow them the opportunity to compete in ADCC, potentially win a medal, and whatever the subpar pay is that comes along with that, the exposure, the recognition in the sport. Obviously, ADCC is known throughout the jiu-jitsu community as the pinnacle. And then the next week, they also get an opportunity to go win $1 million. But from a marketing standpoint, and I think this is where their genius comes in, people are only talking about it to the degree that they're talking about it because it's also spiting directly ADCC. So Craig can say whatever he wants on podcasts and shows. It is a deliberate choice to host it on and right around the other event because it forces top talent to choose. And when you choose, you have to declare. And when someone like Fionn declares, millions of people see that and go, wait, what's this? Right. And if she didn't have to do that, if all the athletes could just go compete in ADCC and then also show up the next week and have no public declaration, then no one would really know. And it would be more of a wait and see where people would go, well, we're just going to watch the Craig Jones thing. And if it's cool, then we'll watch next year. But now it's this division that's formed, and the fans can still watch both, but it's forcing the athletes to do this kind of like backhanded marketing effort for CJI, which it's a bummer because I think that there's a lot of complexities about running a business that just never meet the eye for the public. Like profitability. Usually profitability is pushed further down the line, not because people are in the short term greedy. It's not because Mo wants to just put all the money in his own pockets, but it's because events are extremely expensive to produce. It is really hard to put
people don't
something
see
on.
but people don't
No
see
one
that.
does. And even on basic metrics like Craig shares, oh well, it's expensive to put it in this venue, and so choosing to do it in the same venue would be cheaper and with more exposure. But you have to look at the life cycle of a business. It's much more complicated than just a venue choice, and you have to look at how many years ADCC has been around. Of course it's not profitable, and it probably wouldn't be for a while unless you have some anonymous donor just go, here's $2 million to play with, have fun. Okay,
3.
you have to write, yeah, 3, no business plan, no proof that you're going to turn a profit. You form a 501(c), and so now it's all just a tax game. Like there's elements to this that I don't think are giving ADCC and Mo a fair analysis, because it paints him as someone who's just a greedy guy who doesn't want to pay athletes. And I mean, I don't know anyone involved in this on a personal level, but I have never gotten that from ADCC. I think if anything, it's like the one event that's putting the sport on its back and really giving a growth opportunity.
People do the same thing with WJF. People do the same thing with WJF. WJF is the biggest responsible for the growth of jiu-jitsu. And
Right.
eh, love me or hate me, I'll say that over and over and over and over. WJF is the biggest responsible for the growth of jiu-jitsu. Is ADCC one of them? Absolutely. But IBJJF is what took us here. Oh no, but professional sports are paying for it. Where do you think they saw you? They saw
Right.
you in the events. Oh, but Gordon Ryan never did it. But no, he actually did. He won Nogi World as a brown belt. So
Yeah.
he also did a bunch of IBJJF. You know. Oh yeah, but he was discovered in EBI. Yes, but there's a reason why he was put there. There's a reason why the person who fought it. There. Oh, he. I remember when he made a name there, beating Yuri. Why did he made a name beating Yuri? Because Yuri was a BJF world champion. You know,
Right.
so he was there, and even if it's for somebody else to make a name off of somebody, it's because that person made a name with WJF. So
Right.
and they still say no, WJF don't pay, WJF this and that. Look at how many events WJF puts.
Totally.
They're not all profitable. I'm from the time where when I moved to America in 2009, we had here, I believe, only one open. It was New York Open. So
Wow.
there was American Nationals gi and no gi. I think it was the first time the no gi, I believe, but American Nationals gi and no gi, Worlds gi and no gi, Pants gi only. The no gi was later, and then we had uh, New York Open.
Mhm.
Look at how many opens we have now. Sometimes three in one weekend. They have
Yeah.
to pay venue, they have to pay staff, they have to pay, and besides all the office, the people that work in the office, 365 days a year, basically. So so it's not only so people that, oh no, but the venue is 20,000, this is 20,000, this and this. Yeah, but what about the people that are working on the back end, and what about the people that are doing all the other tournaments too? And then they do the math on their biggest tournament. Oh, look at how money they made, and yeah, but look at how many tournaments they did that they didn't make any money. They had to use the money from this one to take to that
Right.
one. you know
Totally.
and then now they're it's still not a lot. Of course, it's still not a lot, but now they're paying for world champions and doing this. Oh, but they should pay more. Yeah, they should pay more, and I'm sure they eventually will. Just like they're doing $40,000 GPs now, just like they're doing paying also for the ranking and all that. I think, and this is one of the things that I personally would love to see happening. And when that happens, I think jiu-jitsu is going to change drastically, and
Mhm.
we never see anyone talking about it. Mark my words, okay? Jiu-jitsu is
Yes.
going to change drastically when this happens. When IBJJF start paying academies for their performance in tournaments. When I believe Alliance won Worlds. Imagine if Alliance made 50 grand or 100 grand. Don't you think they're
Yeah.
going to invest more in the athletes, in like a professional team?
Yeah.
Athletes
I
will
mean,
make.
that's
I,
smart because that changes the incentive for the professors and for the athletes. And if
exactly.
you have the potential to, let's say you're an up and coming school and there's, X amount of things as a business owner you would want to change about your facility. Well, now you can use the skills that you have, which is your coachability and your roster, to actually make that happen. So instead of just incentivizing one individual athlete who happens to be highly motivated to go and compete, you motivate the school that is over them. You create a more intense team environment. You separate the classes a little bit more intentionally so that you have true competitors and people that are there for recreation. And now what you would then see also in the level of the sport is that everything would raise
Yep.
because competition mindset would be kind of across the board instead of in little pockets where like maybe you train under Kaio and he used to be a world champion. And so that's naturally part of the academy. You would start to see that much, much more. And the other thing it would do for those competitors out there that are retired, that are unsure what they want to do, it would incentivize them to give back to the community by opening up a competitive academy and going for it. So now you've also doubled on the ground level. We go back to like that entry point. Now there's more businesses doing the thing. That's a
Yeah,
genius idea.
yeah. And think about one thing. If I have three great competitors, I might hire a couple more. So I might be paying for more active. We see that in a few gyms nowadays, not in very little compared to how many gyms we have that bring people to tournaments. But I would be paying for like to have a competition team. Like let's say I have 10 guys that are super committed. That okay, guys, I'm gonna give you guys a few $1,000 every month for you guys just to be competitors, because
Right.
I can see that return. I can
Totally.
see that possible, of course, that possible ROI. And not only that, I might, oh shoot, I don't have the time to train then, but so I'm gonna hire somebody that's not my instructors. My instructors are worried about the whole gym and the students and
Right.
all that. I'm gonna hire a instructor to focus on my competitors, for my competition team. So I think that's gonna raise the level in so many ways. In so many ways, the gyms will be able to invest more money, and sponsors also, people, investors,
Yeah.
can come in also, like, hey, I'm gonna open a gym just for competitors, because
Totally.
if I invest, like let's say if I invest uh, I don't know, 10 grand a month or 20 grand a month or whatever, but then I see that I can get return, uh, these many tournaments, that they can double, triple my arrow. Like,
Yeah.
I think jiu-jitsu can start like growing like in a very positive way, like for those tournaments. Like we kind of went off track a little bit, but like,
No, I think I'm here for it. I think that this stuff is really exciting because part of this show and part of I think why it exists is that jujitsu. I mean, I am proof that jujitsu is growing. Right. I am a practitioner who's just been training for 5 years, and I love it. But I love it so much that I love having conversations with other people like yourself who've been involved with this way before it was cool, right? Like you were doing jujitsu out of pure love for the art form. And what we're going to see in the next, if it hasn't already happened, you will see people that are doing it for completely different incentives, right? Like maybe their favorite athlete did it and they saw them on TV and that's their sole driving force for why they want to be part of it. Whereas it was your lifeblood. Like you kind of fell into it in your community and absolutely loved it. So it's really exciting to talk to people that have been part of that, but it just shows that like here is a sport and here's a martial art that's starting to seep into areas where people are motivated to even put together entire shows about it,
yeah,
just because they love talking about it. I mean, I think that that's, and this is show is just one example, but there's many out there, and it's really cool to see a community that's so invested in itself all put out stuff about the growth of it. And these kind of conversations, these ideas, things like that, they will be pivotal moments. And something like that's actually interesting because if you look at I mean, I can't think about the financials really in depth here, but just from a pay to compete model where every athlete has paid their registration fee, right?
hmm,
So if you increase the amount of athletes per gym that are paying to go compete, because now the gym is motivated by incentives, you're almost covering the cost of the payout for the winner just in registration fees. So it's something that you could do almost just on the marketing of getting more academies involved. The challenge, I think, would lie in top academies like, Atos, Alliance. They're going to have more funds to pull from to put these teams together. So it would be challenging to make it fair for, let's say, a smaller gym in an area, uh, to go up against these huge juggernauts. And then as an athlete, what team do you want to be part of? Do you want to make the move and then go be part of a really big, successful, exciting team? Or do you want to kind of hold it down for your community and shoot for it with a smaller group of people? But I guess
It's
that'll
already
be
like that.
made on the true.
But it's already like that. If you see, it's already very hard to compete uh, with those with those big with those big academies, with those big teams. And if you see, the only ones that go there and aside about AOJ is doing amazing right now. They have a bunch
So
of,
sick.
yeah, no, their work they're doing, it's phenomenal. They do have people that that merged there, that they were already world champions too. But of course, that wouldn't happen if the work that they were doing wasn't like phenomenal.
Right.
So they are doing amazing, and they are already there somehow. Like, I think they ended this world. I think was it third or fourth or something like that. So they did phenomenal. But aside from them, the only ones that were able to compete, that they are relatively new schools, are the ones that are paying athletes. That the
Right.
ones that are paying athletes to, so I think that would be just I think that would actually bring more academies to realize that they can't do it. Because by now, like right now, it's very right now. I think right now it's unfair. Right now, unfair, and I'll put not unfair is not the best word, because everyone had the same, it started from the same point. So
Right.
uh, I can't say it's unfair, but it's harder. I think it's harder without the incentive for smaller gyms to compete with, or smaller teams to compete with the big teams. With more incentive, I think they can get investors, they can get sponsors, they can uh, even invest, because they are going to be kind of seeing like, hey, like a light at the end of the tunnel. What if
Right.
we're able to get? And I'm not only saying that for worlds. Of course, worlds. Let's say 100,000 for the winner. That'll be amazing. That'll
Yeah.
be amazing. But then we say like, hey, Pan Am's, Europeans, Brasileiros, nationals, and all that. So I think not maybe not as much money, but I think a money that just incentivize. Oh, but maybe Alliance is gonna win all of them. They don't win every tournament.
Right.
They rarely win any other tournament, but Worlds, because Worlds they focus a lot. They bring the whole team from all over the world. you know but maybe if there was more financial incentive, maybe they would do that for other tournaments too. So then we will
Right.
see some amazing competitors from AOJ doing American Nationals. Like, we don't see them doing American Nationals. Like, you uh I think Maisa did American Nationals once a long time ago. Wouldn't it be nice to just, oh, I'm gonna pop into American Nationals and Maisa Bastos there, like, and so I think we could see even more professional athletes on those tournaments too. So I think, of course, and I'm not that kind of person, as I mentioned before, that I'm gonna be saying, oh, IBJJF is holding back. They could be doing this, they could be
Right.
doing that. I think where it was before and when it is now, like, it's just people don't have the patience to to wait for the progression. When they have a business plan, they are structured, they are here for this long for a
Right.
reason. So we gotta respect that. And uh, it might be something that we're gonna see in the future. This is just like, no one ever told me that's gonna happen. This is me. I thought about that a few years back, and this has been always stuck in my mind. That I think when that happened, that's gonna be a huge transition in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's tough as in any organization based sport. You want change to be able to happen. Like, people should always be able to lobby for change. It's good. It progresses sports. It makes rule sets better. You look at every evolution that a sport like jiu-jitsu has gone through. And not that every change always ends up better than the one before, but the changes happen because people speak up, because people say, hey, this needs to be done this way, or we're not getting enough representation, or the athletes aren't getting paid enough. All those voices need to be loud, and it's good because it moves things along in different directions. But as a spectator, as a fan, as someone who practices the sport, I think it's important that we all also recognize that businesses are very complicated to run, and they have a ton of different inputs and outputs. And it may look really simple when you go to an IBJJF event and you go, all these guys do is throw down a couple of colored mats and put up some triangular signs on the side. And then they pay some, whatever judges who kind of know the rules to come in and do this thing. It looks like that, but it is so hard to get that to all fire on the same cylinder on that day, and then do it for tons of years and make enough money to keep doing it. It's in a sport where no one knows about it. People forget that, like, statistically, nobody knows about jiu-jitsu yet. It's still that small. It's that undiscovered on a global scale. So when things like this take time, it's important to just understand that that's part of the process. If they could flip a switch, and if IBJJF could wake up tomorrow and they could go and be as big as the NFL, you don't think that they would do that?
Oh,
They
yeah.
would do it instantly, man. That kind of money, Nike sponsorships, Adidas sponsorships, all the biggest insurance companies in the world coming in and paying 10, $15 million for a 30-second ad segment on the IBJJF network. You don't think that they would do that? Fuck yeah, they would. But they don't, because it's complicated. It takes us so much time and the right minds coming together and all the right stuff for it to work. So it's just hard. Sometimes it's hard to watch and go, like, yes, I wish things were different, but, like, it's much more complicated than we understand from the outside.
No, absolutely. And imagine, like you're saying that jiu-jitsu is still very small and it's still like not even known by a lot of people in this world. Just imagine how it was in 1996 when they first started the first worlds.
Yeah. Like,
So we are what, 20, 30 years almost, almost 30 years uh, um into IBJJF worlds. If now, like, you can, like people look at my ears and say, oh, what do you do, MMA? I was, oh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like, it's still like that. It's still
right.
like that,
They're like, well,
imagine.
you must be bad at it because they're
Yeah, exactly, where you're getting punched in the,
yeah.
in the ear a lot, like, and they're like, yeah, we don't really get punched.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm a 3-time world champion. Shut up.
So people they like it's hard, like I said. People always have their opinions. People always gonna think that it would be easier than, with talking about going back to ADCC. Oh yeah, they could, man, like, with all the respect, ADCC was the worst looking tournament.
Yeah.
They were worse than, oh my god, like a little small town tournament. It was
Yeah.
terrible. It was terrible. Amazing matches. A great credential if you win in, of course. But man, that was literally like three mats on the ground, three mats on the ground. Let's go, and
Yeah.
then
Someone
like
holding a
go.
sign. They're like, ADCC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then goes to the ground and keeps going on the ground and don't care, and people get terrible, terrible, terrible. Like, you would look at this, like, at the seats. There'd be like 20 people watching.
Yeah.
That my friends went to the one in Finland. Like, it was like they were laying down there and relaxing, and then, like, there was not enough people, like, not even to cover from one champion. Probably in ticket sales.
Crazy.
And then
That's
they
so
go,
wild.
and then last year I was there. man, like freaking Bruce, like it's time, like
Yeah,
it was like that arena was packed. People that students of mine that trained for 6 months, they were there watching.
yeah,
They traveled to Vegas just to watch. Just because of the dimension that it got, like just because it's and that people got to understand that. Oh, why people got to understand that all that it's an investment. And then they got
for sure.
T-Mobile Arena. How much probably cost them to go to move to T-Mobile Arena? Well, yeah, but they sold their tickets super fast. Yes, if it wasn't a small thing, people probably wouldn't even care to go. Like I'm just watching full grappling to be like my back's gonna be hurting, and I'm gonna be there sitting in the cement. Man, they go to Vegas. They do a super nice T-Mobile Arena. They probably have a lot of things planned that we don't even know about. No, they're doing something very nice, and it's for the growth of the sport. Like, yeah, if they and I hope, and it's one thing too that a lot of people don't realize. Like, I hope they make money, because if they
Yeah,
make money, they'll do next time. If they
totally.
make money, they will do next year. Like CJI, like I don't think they're planning on making money. So
I don't
here,
like how would they? I mean, they're going to stream the thing for free on YouTube to try to grab eyes. They're you got the nonprofit thing, which again, I think this is whoever their donor is like, I need to expense $3 million.
yeah,
Oh, cool. Here you go. Tax loophole. They cover that spread, so they're fine. They don't, they're not dealing with it, so they're not worried. They're going to lose the money anyway, probably. So they're just losing it in a more fun way,
yep,
and Craig's stoked because he just gets to play with house money. Like why wouldn't he do that, right? He would be a fool
right,
to walk away from the opportunity also. But it's man, it's so hard. It's so hard to grow something.
yeah,
Let alone in fight sports. I mean, I go back to this thing with social media, like because of how information moves around now, you can really isolate yourself into thinking that your small world is just true for everyone. And jujitsu is a great example. If you engage with jujitsu content, you follow jujitsu athletes, you watch jujitsu content on YouTube, you have a Flow Grappling account, you can get the sense that this is a huge sport with tons of infrastructure and it's everywhere and people understand it. People don't understand it. Most people don't know what it is. It's very common that you're like, "Oh, jujitsu," and someone goes, "Is that like board breaking?" And you're like, "Oh my god, they think jujitsu is karate. Wild. That's crazy that they don't even know that, right?" But that's the majority. So these events, they are marketing to an extremely small group of people. And to be able to even fill an arena in the first place that is a massive accomplishment
yeah,
and super hard to do. If they
oh
could
yeah,
do it every year, they would do it every year, right? It's like it's tough.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
it also gives I think the ADCC, when you're looking at athletes, it's kind of like, what do the athletes get in return, right? If they're not getting pay, what are they getting? And there is an intangible here. When you say an athlete's name, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, Fion, right? Fion Davies, comma, what? What
ADCC
do you put
champion, world champion, no gi world
right?
champion, everything
So
champion.
as someone who is on the business side of it, and you understand deals and brand endorsements and marketing and the actual T's that get crossed and the I's that get dotted, and watching the money get wired to the athlete, when you actually understand that transaction, those four letters, they do something for that process because they give a sense of credibility to the individual. And if we're being honest, the most credible four-letter combos that you can have following a jiu-jitsu athlete are ADCC or IBJJF. That's how it is. So there isn't, maybe they're not walking away from that with $1 million payout every time, but there is something that they get that positions them to where they can grow as an athlete and as a business person and ultimately as a brand within the sport as it grows, right?
Yeah, and there's a reason why too. Those people that are being invited to CJI, they are being invited to CJI because they have done great in this other federation.
Right.
So like I said, I appreciate that money coming in. Like
Hell
it's
yeah.
amazing for our sport. It's gonna raise the bar. It's going to put people on watch. Like, hey, like money's coming in. Like, let's raise the bar. Like sponsors are gonna be looking at like just this wave that just us talking about here. Just
Yes.
us talking about it here. There's a reason why we're talking about it. There's a reason why uh, everyone's talking about it. So I think all that already grows jiu-jitsu, and
Yes.
as you mentioned, like the marketing, it was very well taught, I guess, uh, behind that, and it already gonna help the jiu-jitsu grow anyways. So, but we can't take anything away from these federations that brought us where we at right now. We can't
Do
because
you think do you think that there will be punishment for, let's say that CJI goes off, it's an okay success. It's not, let's say it's not like a 10 out of 10. Maybe they have trouble stacking the roster. More people follow Mika's leadership and they go, you know what? We're going to stay with ADC. We're going to trust in the long term here. And let's say that CGI goes off, it underperforms. And these athletes that made a stance against being at ADCC and chose to go to CJI want to then return on the next time. Do you think that there will be any kind of like registration invite trial punishment from ADCC to them saying, hey, you guys kind of turned your back on us when the chips were stacked? Like, what the hell was that?
I think there will be two things there. No, just one thing. I don't think that people are expecting much from CJI
Mhm.
other than we're gonna fight for $1 million. You know,
Right.
like no one is. I haven't seen anyone talking about production. I haven't seen anyone talking about much. They Everyone talks about like how much their money can change their life and their cause. Let's help jiu-jitsu grow. I think it's great that somebody's putting that much money, and I'm gonna support it. you know like, so if Craig puts 3 mats down just like the old ADCC style, and people fight for $1 million, I think people are not gonna complain because there's $1 million on the line, right?
Right.
uh on the other hand, I do believe, and I think Mo said that in one of his lives or interviews. He said that next year's trials are going to be insane. And
Yeah.
from what I understood is that everyone that are going in a different direction, they're not going to be invited. They're going to have to go through trials.
Wow.
This was kind of like what I got in between lines there. I don't think he said that in uh, explicit, like, oh, I'm not gonna invite anyone. I Like, if there's ADCC champions, like they usually invite ADCC champions, but he
Right.
can say, yeah, invitation is invitation. There's not a rule saying ADCC champions will always be invited. There's not a rule regarding that. You know, if there is, I don't think there is, but if there is, I don't know about it. But he always invites the ADCC champions. Maybe he was just not invited, and people are gonna do the trial. And I'm pretty sure everyone, it's fine with that, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna try and chase my $1 million, and next year I'll do the trials,
Right.
and I believe people are fine with that, because I don't think there's much. I don't think Mo will ban people, and and from what I saw on his lives, he was like very cool about it. He was like, "Hey, if you want to go, we're gonna be here next year."
Yeah.
I even saw him saying like, "It's fine. There are a lot of people that wants to be in ADCC," and he's right. I don't think there the level of the tournament is going to be the same. No, I don't think so. Of course, it's not going to be the same, but he's not. The tournament's not going to happen for lack of competitors. It's not gonna happen. Like
Not at all.
like there's so many people that would be willing to. Even my wife asked me the other day, Samir, what if they invite you to do ADCC? Of course, it's not gonna happen. They invited me actually like years ago. Unfortunately, I was hurt. I couldn't compete. I was the current world champion at that time. Now, of course, my last world championship was 8 years ago. So there's no chance that happens. But
Right.
I said I'll do it. I'll do it. So I don't think no one will just decline an NDCC invite unless they're hurt, like I was 8 years ago. Like I don't think no
Right.
one would just say no. So I don't think that's gonna be an issue for ADCC. ADCC is going to be here not next year, but in 2 years. They're gonna be here with opens. They're gonna be here with trials and all. And so I don't think it will hurt the level of the ADCC this year. But one thing we know, ADCC is going to be here in 2 years, and probably with those
And
athletes back again.
I think the other thing with the athlete roster changes, it may hurt the show a little bit, right? Like for example, I would have loved to see Andrew Tackett in ADCC. I want to see him get the W. I know how much it means to him to be competing there in the first place. His trials runs were insane. It would be awesome to see him, but I'm not gonna not watch ADCC because Andrew Tackett's not there. I'm still going to watch ADCC and I'm going to get incredible matches the whole day because it's still a massive pool of very competitive practitioners. And I mean, if it's anything like the previous one, it's a great show. It's a great show. It's the most fun uh, spectacle of no-gi grappling on earth that you
Yeah.
can watch. So it's like, if the event's there and then you could just tune in the next couple of days and watch the CJI thing, why wouldn't you just do both as a viewer? And so I think that when you look at metrics that really matter for ADCC, for example, are you getting butts and seats? Are people going to show? I think they still sell out the arena. I don't think they're going to lose seats for that. So the financials are coming in there. And then I think you still get the streaming. I think Flow is going to crush it and they're going to get a lot of eyes on it. I don't think you're going to lose comparatively that many eyes to CJI. And then I think you're actually just going to get a migration when that event's on. So I think the ADCC viewers are going to watch that. So at the end of the day, it ends up being super fun as a fan. You just end up watching your favorite people in slightly different arenas, but the influx of cash is incredible. I mean, it would be so cool to see the winners do great things with the money that they win. For a grappler to come up on $1 million overnight, to open the academy of your dreams, to put, whatever it is that they decide they want to do. I think that is one of the coolest parts of what he's doing with that event is like Fionn. If Fionn won $1 million, man.
Unfortunately, she's not competing for $1 million.
Oh, she's not.
No, she's doing a super fight. So
Oh, right.
the
She's not in
million,
that pool.
yeah, the $1 million is only for
I forgot.
male up to
Right.
80 kilos, and then after 80 kilos. So it's only for
Gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah, it's only for two. They're doing a few super fights in that event too, including him against Gabi Garcia.
What do you what, what do you think about that? Here we are. Here we are yet again. An hour and 50 minutes in, still talking about Craig Jones, right? So hats off to him for the marketing agenda. What do you think about that?
Man, it for the marketing perspective, it's amazing. Like
So funny.
yeah, it feels kind of crazy, But yeah, do you know that back in the days we kind of had that talk between a match, Caio Terra versus Gabi Garcia.
Oh, really?
We had
Well,
a
you were training with them?
Yeah, there was a beef
Yeah.
between them. There was a
No
beef
way.
between them. Yeah, there was a
Huh.
beef between them, and and like people even made flyers and all, like Gabi Garcia versus Caio Terra. Imagine like
Oh. What's
Uh,
Kyle weigh when his fight weight was what
he's
one like
he would oscillate between rooster weight and light featherweight. So he would be around 130 in his good day, 131,
oh my god.
132.
Yeah, I mean, but ADCC, her versus Amy Campo. Amy Campo dusted her at the
Yeah,
end there. That was
yeah,
fucking impressive with that. She had that
yeah,
classic just arm drag right at the end of the mat. So yeah, I don't know. What a weird
yeah.
again, marketing genius. The guy he has figured out that equation and he just totally crushes it there. So that's such a big aspect of business is how you can effectively market. And I think he capitalizes on this social media weird era, and people are going to tune in to watch that. And that's a gimmicky thing where like people are going to bet on that. People that don't understand the sport are going to go, wait, what's happening? Oh, I got to see this. It has a circus element to it, but it'll be really interesting to see like what the vibe is of that match. Maybe she'll just snap down, guillotine him, and turn him purple or something. It'll be wild.
Yeah,
Well, it'll be interesting to see what transpires. Um, it's been really fun having you on, Samir.
yeah.
You have a unique perspective into that side of it, and it's cool because the sport is only growing. So everything that you do, all the athlete representation, your inside knowledge of being a high class competitor, a 3-time world champion, you've been there, you've done that, you understand it all. It really positions you to be able to serve your athletes really well and give them perspective that they might not otherwise get if they were out there doing it on their own. So they're lucky to have you in their corner.
No, yeah, no, I appreciate it, and it was one of the reasons why I started doing this is because I wasn't the highest level, and I always felt the need of it. You know, I don't know if jiu-jitsu was ready for it. On my generation, I actually had I've seen people that had it before, and it was just not as big as it is right now. But towards the
Yeah.
end of my career, when uh, more professional fights was going on and more professional organizations and all that, and then seminars. I think I've done hundreds of seminars around the world. It's like 37 countries.
Wow. Cool.
If I had people to plan all that for me, and helping me plan and all that, uh, that'll be huge
Yeah.
because I'm training for a tournament, and then I had to be talking and negotiating, and then planning my trip, and then buying tickets, and then this and that, and then searching visa, and then talking, and then trying to negotiate price, and then contracts, and trying to like read a
Yeah.
contract and trying all that. It's just everything is. I'm a true believer that you an athlete, do your best to just be an athlete, just do your
Totally.
best to be an athlete. I'm from the time
Totally.
where I was my nutritionist, I was my conditioning trainer, I was my coach, I was my, like, or either me or my structure. My
Yep.
structure, a lot of times he was my nutritionist, he was my coach, and he was my personal trainer, but he didn't have only me. So
Yeah.
imagine, like, for him trying to do all that on his own from all his athletes and all that. So I believe the more the sport is growing, uh more professionals are going to have to jump in. So
Yeah.
now you see, I have athletes, my athletes have uh sports psychologist,
So
nutri-
smart. So smart, dude.
nutritionist, personal trainer, of course me, as their manager. So it's a whole team behind my athletes,
Yeah.
like Gabriel, for example. And then we have a lawyer who takes care of all the contracts, and then we have a social media person, like a person a creator that creates the videos and all that, that puts highlights together and all that for us. And then we have a sports media advisor that helps us with, hey, about this. Hey, this happens. What kind of post should we do? Or hey,
Right.
coming into this term, how should we promote this event? So we have a whole team behind the athlete. Because and not like the athlete the athlete's not a lawyer, the athlete's not a nutritionist, he didn't study law, he didn't study nutrition, he didn't study marketing, he didn't study personal training, he didn't like the athlete studied jiu-jitsu, and
Yeah.
that's what they do best, and that's what they should be focusing on. The more they focus on jiu-jitsu, the better they're going to be, the better they're going to be with the results. The more, oh, but yeah, I have a few hours a day. Yeah, okay, rest, that's a big
Yeah.
part, that's a
Totally.
big part of your training
Right.
you know
Dude, especially in a sport that's year round. I mean, jujitsu doesn't have a season. So if you are
yeah,
not respecting your body and your recovery, like you're on a one-way track to getting injured eventually.
yeah,
And it's, I mean, if the sport continues to grow as we've spent this entire episode discussing, it warrants this type of management for each individual athlete, because look to any sport, right? Any other sport that has substantial infrastructure, the top athletes and even mid-tier athletes, they're spending their time thinking about and doing the sport, and that's what you have to do to be competitive at that level. It raises the level of competitiveness of the sport itself, because the top people can be as good as they are, but it also raises the level of the athletes, because now they have time to focus on it. If you're your nutritionist and your financial advisor and your legal team, how much can you really do effectively? You can do it all by, fly by the seat of your pants, but it all takes energy, takes bandwidth.
yeah,
Your head has to be available to think about it. And if you can begin to offload this to people that you trust, right, who have, like, you have your athlete's best interests is at heart, and that's very important. But if they can truly offload that to you, that's more hours in the gym, that's more hours visualizing, that's all these things that allow you to be competitive on a high level. And the reality is, if you're not doing it and your competitors are, then they have a competitive advantage, and that's something you can't give up if you want to be elite.
yeah. The line is really fine at that level. Like one thing that you don't do or one thing that you do that you're not supposed to be doing, it's already a loss for sure. It counts, every little thing counts there. and
Yeah.
and also, like, not only for them to be able to train better and to focus their attention on where they should be focused, but also if you think about, like, the experience that I have from my career, the experience that I have dealing with the promoters and all, and like, I'm a very respected person in the field too. I've been doing this for so long, and
Yep.
not only because of my achievements, but also I was always into it. I was always participating and all, so I know a lot of people in the field, and uh, it's it's way easier for me to reach those people than for an athlete to, like, m- message a promotion. And
Totally.
imagine how many people message promotions every day. Imagine how many
Endless.
imagine how many people messages um uh sponsorships every day.
Yeah.
Like, how many people go to the website and get the email from a Gi brand and message them, hey, I'm looking for a sponsorship. I can
Right.
get my phone, go on WhatsApp, and text the person, the owner of that company right away. Just because I've been there, like, I've done, like, I've known all these guys for so long. And uh the negotiation aspect of it too, like, athletes shouldn't be negotiating. It's like, kind of one thing that I relate is, like, the instructor, of course, in the beginning, the owner of the academy does everything, right?
Right.
Teaches, front desk, and everything, but ideally you shouldn't be the one charging your student. You shouldn't be the one, like, hey, you owe me money. No, we should
Right.
have a we should right we should have a charging, like, a system for that, or someone that's going to email to someone that's going to talk, or automated, or something. Like, you shouldn't be
Yep.
the one talking money with your students, because like your relationship with the students should be different. The structure relationship with the students should be different, not like not that way. So it's the same thing, like uh, the athlete talking to the promotion, and then you're gonna be advocating for your pay, but then at the same time you don't want to look bad. You want to take the opportunity, you don't want to miss that opportunity, so you kind of like just, okay, whatever you give me is fine, yeah, but
Right.
no, the first of all, your manager can see from the outside. So um, I know different, and like understand more that aspect. I know I can advocate a little bit more for my athletes. It's hard for even for the athlete to know how much he's worth.
Yeah.
It's even hard for the athletes to know that. But when we are on the outside, I'm like, hey, look at the reach that we have. Look at how entertaining my fighter is. Look how much he can sell. Like,
Yeah.
guarantee you that fight, we're gonna sell that fight. So I can advocate for even for a better pay, much way more than the athlete itself. Because a lot of times the athlete just throw the towel and say, yeah, whatever, because
Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes I'll turn down offer. Or like, yeah, he's not gonna do it for that money. Don't even bother. Like,
Right.
of course I'm not gonna say that way, but it's like, hey, like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's try to renegotiate this. Let's try to do that. Let's try to do this, because it's not worth it. Like, there's a huge, like the athletes, they go through a huge camp.
Well, and
They uh they don't do seminars like they first of all, it's the weekend that they could be making money with seminars. It's way
well,
easier to
and
prepare for a seminar than to prepare for a fight. So the promotions got this is something also the promotions no, and then all the training, the focus, the
oh yeah.
supplements, the hiring people and all that. So it all has to make sense, for that fight to happen.
Well, and as an athlete, uh, any exposure feels exciting because you're hit every day with how hard you're working. You know the physical effort that you're putting in. So when something comes your way, it's it's exciting. You want to say yes. You want to say how grateful you are. Thank you for the opportunity. And when you do that, you forget that, the promotion, whatever, they have the upper hand. So if you don't negotiate, they'll take you at whatever you offer them, right? Like if you're a promotion and you have a budget of $100,000 and you want to book 8 people and 7 of those people go, I'll do it for free, then you can pay your eighth person $100,000, and so you get a really big name. If you And it's not really your job as the athlete to be able to manage that situation. Your job as the athlete is to perform in the competition and work when you're not performing in the competition. So having someone like yourself, I spoke with Victor Dory about this too, because he's like, I bring to the equation something that the athletes don't have. And I mean that in a respectful way, but they shouldn't have it. That's why I'm the manager, because I'm able to handle this in a way that they can't. It's the outreach, it's the connections, it's the back door that you can get into when you got to talk to someone, and it's all the things that you've juggled over your whole career that you bring to the table for these people so they can just focus on being elite and doing what they do. But it's hard to see the value of that as an athlete when you're coming up, because everything's exciting, everything's cool,
It is, and you don't know also, like, a lot of the athletes, they only know what it's happening to them. They don't know what's happening around them. So
Right.
but if you, oh shoot, I'm getting a couple $100 a month from a sponsorship. Wow, I've never made any money. But and then I look from outside and say, hey, your name. Sometimes, of course, there are black belt, there are levels, like, and
Yes.
on your reach, on your achievements, everything plays around it. But I can see from outside is like, no, we can get you better. We can get you something more. Like, one of my athletes, they came at me with a contract that was like a sponsorship contract that wasn't good. That wasn't good at all.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't good at all. And I and I
Yeah.
I, I honestly, I felt like this is like a slavery. Like this is not
Yeah.
you shouldn't be like yourself with your name. You shouldn't be doing this. Oh yeah, but uh I didn't have anything, so I just signed for it and this and that. I was like, no. And then
Mm-mm.
I analyzed all the contract. I studied law before, so I studied law back in Brazil. I did years of law school. I didn't finish because I came here, but I did years of law school. So even before we actually have a lawyer in our team, I was doing that work. So I analyzed the contract. I
Yep.
saw there was a way to get out of the contract. I got him out of the contract, and I got him his sponsorships, paying him 3 times more than he was what he was getting paid. You know,
Yep.
the athlete
What do you
wouldn't.
what do you sorry to interrupt. What do you like, how far off do you think we are from kind of like Nike, Under Armour level brand endorsements in this sport?
You mean regarding pay or regarding the brands itself to notice us?
Yeah, maybe the kind of the middle ground, like exposure meets obviously, like the compensation won't be there for a long time relative to MLB, MLS, NBA, like these global sports. But how long until Nike goes, hey, we could do a really cool gi and take some of it. Let's take Mika Galval, let's take some of these top guys and put them on, like a peanuts contract for Nike, which they could throw at 6 figures a year at these athletes and never think the other. Uh, do you think that we're close to that?
I honestly think we are not far. I
Okay.
honestly think we're not far. If you see, uh, we seeing in Brazil, Reebok Brazil got into
Oh
jiu-jitsu.
wow.
We've seen Adidas producing geese. Yeah,
Hmm.
I believe it's a different Adidas. It's like a same thing. Like it's not Reebok, the big Reebok. It's a Reebok Brazil. The Adidas, there was it was a different Adidas. I don't know if it was Adidas USA or Adidas Sports. I think it was Adidas Sports, something like that. But it was Adidas. Adidas. It was like a smaller part of Adidas, whatever. But there there is eyes for it, and
Yeah.
that's why when I see ADCC selling out T-Mobile Arena, I'm like, man, like, please let this game, let's
Yeah.
game, let the game go, let the
Yeah.
game keep going, keep growing, because when people see that, when sponsors see that, they get more interested. Or even like that'll be somebody like that person that just put $3 million in Craig Jones' hands. Like that person probably knows one of them, because to have that kind of money, you probably have connections. You know,
Totally.
uh,
Yeah.
so I believe there will be a point where somebody is going to train jujitsu that will know this person. you know like we just recently had uh Lucas Neto competing. Lucas Neto is a big, huge YouTuber in Brazil for kids. He competed at the Pans. Uh, that guy has millions and millions and millions of followers, you know,
Yeah.
and of course, like he does movies in Brazil and all that. Of course, he has connections. And then we
Totally.
see, Zach, Zach Zuckerberg, and then
Mark
we see
Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mark
All good.
Zuckerberg training
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, competing here in a smaller tournament here in my area.
I know.
Like you know, like man, what it would take for that guy to just sponsor a couple athletes?
I
Like
wonder, like, do you remember when John Jones landed the Nike sponsorship and he came out with those, he had gold shorts, they had the swoosh on the back, and he fought in the UFC in Nike. This was before they did the Reebok deal and then the Venom deal. Uh, and he came out and I was like, oh my God, this dude's in Nike. Like Nike is in mixed martial arts. This is insane. And I thought then, I was like, that's just such a sign that this is headed in that direction. If these brands are, because you knew for them to do that, obviously John Jones was one of the biggest names in the sport at the time. So they weren't taking they ended up taking a big gamble on him because then he had the drug issues. And so they pulled the sponsorship. But at the time, they put that money in there, which was nothing to them. Whatever they paid John Jones, he could have been paid really well. Nothing for Nike. right? An absolute drop in the bucket. But it shows that the biggest brand in the world in sports is seeing this sport and then branding someone, and now they're wearing it in there. And so other people that see Nike and recognize it, it's another pull into the sport. And I wonder, like, you look at these top guys in ADCC where maybe the labeling would still be allowed. It's such a small price to pay for big exposure into the sport. I think that we're not that far off, especially as you have grapplers going into, you got karate combat exposure, ADCC exposure, CJI exposure, UFC Fight Pass, then all the submission grappling events that are coming through that. It'd be kind of crazy if you saw these big companies start to invest, and then it starts to turn the tide a little bit. Like you said, with these, yeah, what if Mark Zuckerberg was like, I don't know, throw 50 million into it.
Like no, let's talk how much for him would be like, hey, 100 grand a year to 3 athletes.
It would probably cost him more to make the phone call.
Yeah,
It would cut his time alone wouldn't be worth the cost.
he would just say, yeah, ask my guy there to talk to them, and then to get a little change there in my pocket, and then give it to them. Like it would be
So
nothing,
crazy.
And let's talk like one FC, one
So
championship. I'm sorry,
sick.
one
So
championship. See,
sick.
that event was amazing.
Loved it.
They it's amazing event. I just recently had Gabriel there. I have Maisa there to sign with them, and man, like that event from the start to finish, a lot of people don't see the back end of it, but
Mhm.
like we work a lot before to get to that event, like blood tests and sponsorships approval, and it's so many things that goes into like behind the scenes to get to that event and being that show. That whole arena was sold out. It was
So sick.
it was live on Prime Video. It was
Yeah.
like just to be on Prime itself. You see, like I was at home watching, and I turn on my TV. I have the like a Fire TV, right? So it's
Yeah.
basically from Prime. So it's all connected. So when I turn on my TV, the first thing that popped up, a huge banner, one championship, 80 something, whatever, this one versus this one, boom. And I looked at it, and it was me, my wife, my daughter, my mom watching. And when we looked at it, it was like, wow, like,
Here
oh,
we are. Yeah.
exactly, like on mainstream, literally
Yeah.
mainstream. Like I just turned on the TV. I didn't put any channel. I didn't put anything. I didn't say, Alexa, go turn on one championship. No, I turn on my TV. The first thing that happens, boom. All I need to do was click one button. Boom,
Yeah.
it took me to the show. Look at how many people that wasn't even planning on watching that event, when they turn on the TV, they saw that. Just by
Right.
seeing
And
that,
and
it's
even
already
if
in their
even if
mind.
they didn't even if they didn't watch it, the fact that it's there,
Yeah.
like I had Gabriel on the week leading up to that. His episode came out on Tuesday, and then he fought on Friday.
Hmm.
And just talking about like that moment for him as an athlete from
Yeah.
Brazil, coming from the place that he came from, the family that he came, the community that he came from, that he left, to being on prime TV, fighting in a sold out arena in Bangkok. Like that, jujitsu and him, of course, did that. That's
Yeah.
incredible. That is showing that, at this current moment in history, you can live in a favela in Brazil, and in a 12-year period, you can be fighting on the biggest stage in the world. It can happen, and it is happening, and it's going to
Yeah.
happen for more people. That storyline is incredible, and it's happening on the biggest network, one of the biggest networks in the world,
Yeah.
to a
People.
sold out arena.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, when we signed him with one, I posted a video on with the flyer. I did. I was not when we signed, because we need to wait for them to actually announce it. But when they
Yeah.
announced it, I put a video on my Instagram saying how happy I was, because I always have like a conversation interview when when I'm signing an athlete, right? And it was one of the first things he told me. He was like, Samir, I want to be a professional grappler. I want to dedicate to nogi, and man, my dream, my goal is to sign with one championship. And this was something that he told me last year in March. That was when
Yeah.
we start working together, and literally 1 year after, in 1 year, we were signing him with one. And so that made me so happy because he worked so hard. He had to
So hard.
he changed the law. He focused so much on his goal, and like I said, he's one of the athletes that have conditioning trainer, sports psychologist,
Yep.
nutritionist, manager, and he moved from North Carolina to New York. He changed completely. He changed his whole life towards a goal, and the first, let's say, one of the first part of his goals we achieved. It's still our goal to see him with the belt. They don't have his weight class yet, so they fought in a catch weight, but eventually, hopefully, they start his weight class and he is able to walk out with a belt from there. So
Yep.
uh, seeing all that, and then of course, if we go even further and seeing the kid from the favela moving to America with a couple $100, leaving the gym
Sleeping
and
on the mats.
is
Yeah.
sleeping on the mats and
Yeah.
working towards, like, he started working with my wife. My wife, she's a nutritionist. He started working with my wife. He was still a brown belt or purple belt, and he was already like 100% dedicated, like, no, uh, I'm gonna put the money that I have together. I'm gonna get a nutritionist because I know it's gonna make a difference for me. So he always thinking ahead, always investing his future. He always knew where he wanted to go. So seeing that paying off, it was like, for me as a manager and as a friend, it was an amazing experience. And this is one of the things that I say a lot too. Like, I had so many memories. I had so many good moments in my career that now I'm kind of reliving them. You know,
Yeah. On the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Participating and seeing, and I'm getting a little bit more nervous than when I used to compete more often. Like, when they fight, I get so much adrenaline too. But at the same time, like, celebrating not only their wins but celebrating their achievements in terms of the contract to sign, a
Yeah.
sponsorship. I just recently signed with Pedro Machado, and man, his story, talking like when he was talking to me, and when we were talking about like his desire to go into the professional events and all that, and to get a nice sponsorship, and we signed him a really good sponsorship too. So those wins that they are getting, because of that
Yeah.
work, I don't like, it's because of them, like, I make the
Yeah.
I make it happen, but the whole work, they are the one doing, I just make it happen because I see that, hey, they deserve it, they deserve it. If if somebody comes to me and say, hey, Samir, no, I want these, I want that, and I was like, man, are you working for it? Are you willing to do what it takes? But when I see
Right.
people that are doing what it takes, that they deserve to be there, man, like, I'm gonna work so hard to make that connection from the
Yes.
he deserves to he has it, so I just make that connection, and it makes me very, very, very happy, fulfilled, like, this aspect of my career that I'm growing. I'm putting a lot of effort right now. It's been very rewarding this way because I'm seeing these guys, man, like, making their dream coming true.
It's got to be a kind of fun too, because as a manager, like, I mean, you sound like a person whose intentions are in the right place, and you're really motivated by watching these people become whatever their most greatest potential is, right? You're watching them realize that. Great, Gabriel is a great example, but it's also got to be fun. Like when they win, it's kind of like, your guy or your girl is winning, and
Yeah.
that's to be honest, that's good for you too, right? Because
Yeah,
you are now on that journey with them, and to experience that on the other side. When you're an athlete, everything is, it's selfish to some degree, because your achievements are your own, and your wins and celebrations, even if you're thanking your team, you are celebrating them for yourself. But when you're a coach or a manager or someone who's guiding others, you get to share in that, but it's in a little bit different of a way. And it's special because you're in a mentor role now, not an athlete role.
yeah,
And that's a different relationship that you have with them. It was it was such a bummer to watch. That match was so fast and so crazy. I thought Gabriel's knee was going to explode out of the front of his leg. I just couldn't. I was kind of watching like this when they were in that tie up. What was that like for you guys? I mean, I know how much training goes into that, and that was the moment. It's such a big opportunity. Mikey's a fierce competitor. They had some weird, like, back and forth words exchange where Mikey seemed to be pretty upset and exposed like some pre-existing drama that apparently was going on. What was that like for you guys and your team?
yeah. The fight itself, of course, we get frustrated, but we know, like, I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been there as a fighter, so I know what it's like to be on both sides. You know,
yeah,
I know what it's like to go there and just boom win and frustrate that person, and I know what's like to be there and being and getting frustrated. First, him being there, like I said, was something. It was something amazing for us. It was something that
yeah,
we planned so much, that we were so happy about it. Of course, the result wasn't what we were expecting. We uh, uh, we had a plan, and unfortunately didn't go as planned. And Mikey even messaged me and saying that Gabriel, like, because I did post it too, like, that Mikey has done the same thing with other fighters before. He has done the same thing with Bruno. Playing victim afterwards, has done the same thing with Gio Martinez. Has done all the things before, and he was like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" and this and that. I was like, "Man, like, he, Mikey, s- said that in the post interview that Gabriel would comment in all his posts and talk bad about." I was like, "Man, like, that never happened. That never happened." And I told Mikey, I was like, "Mikey, that fight that you had with Gabriel hunted you for 4 years, but in your mind, Gabriel hunted you. It wasn't Gabriel. It was the fight.
right.
No one was expecting that fight go that way. He was the who's number one sensation at that time.
Hmm.
Not know if a lot of people remember, but who's number one was building him up so much because he had never done really nogi before, and then he started winning everything. So who is number one was building him up, and all of a sudden Gabriel comes as a last moment replacement, and passes his guard 2-3 times and chokes him.
Yeah,
From being four-time world champion and undefeated in no-gi and all that, and being the sensation at that moment, to getting crushed like that, that fight hunted him.
for sure.
So his mind at that moment after the match, I just think he just started vomiting a lot of things that he created on his own
Truly,
mind. Yeah, yeah, literally, yeah,
truly vomit. It was
yeah.
like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That, like, the interviewer was trying to pull the microphone out of
It
his,
was like,
like, but then
yeah,
and then he started talking, like, a lot of, he was able to badmouth Gabriel, Baby Shark, Fro Grappling, everyone he spoke about in, like, 2 minutes, you know,
yeah,
like, so he, so I think, and I told him that, and I told Mikey that. I was like, "Bro, like, that fight hunted you for 4 years, and then you created that thing in your head that you believe it. That
yeah,
you believe that Gabriel hunted you for 4 years, but it wasn't Gabriel. It was the fight. Like, who is gonna hunt, the one that the one the one that won the match or the one that lost the match? Because Gabriel won the match, he had that match. If we didn't have, if we thought like, if we didn't won that match and just leave off of that win, we could have done it.
Yeah.
We could have
I've
done
always
it.
thought, for as a spectator, as a fan of athletes, what you want in your athlete, whether they are like a Sean Strickland or an Izzy, whether they're down to earth or Austin, whatever it is, whatever their whole shtick is, what you want in the moment of defeat or victory is just honesty. It's transparency, right? And in that moment, it was a perfect moment for Mikey to kind of dispel all the bullshit, all the reasons that people find him aggravating. He could have just in that moment said, hats off to Gabriel. He's an incredibly fierce competitor. He's occupied space in my brain for the last 4 years. I couldn't stop thinking about that loss. It literally drove me every single day in training. I thank him so much for being here, and I can't wait to find the next competitor. You say
It-
something like that, and people go, wow, fuck yeah, dude. And then they move on. But when you
I
get petty and you bring up stuff true or not true, but when you use that moment in front of the world to double down on like weird, I don't know, it always comes off kind of like to say something else.
Yeah, no, it kind of looks like you were reading the message that because he messaged me, and it just seems like you read my message to him. I just told him, I was
Yeah.
like, dude, you could have literally only uh you won that match. You could have say whatever motivational speech you want, because that fight hunted you for so long and you overcame from the loss and you
Yeah.
walk out with a victory. You would have walked out of here with a lot of respect for from us, for the community, from everyone. But
Yeah.
you decided to throw everything through the ground, saying a bunch of lies, talking a bunch of BS, excuse me, and like losing the respect that you could have earned. Like
Yeah.
he attacked people that the whole community love. Like everyone loves Gabriel.
Like Geo. Yeah. Or yeah,
No,
yeah.
like in that match, like everyone loves
Yeah,
Gabriel.
yeah, yeah.
Like uh, I've never seen anyone talking bad about Baby Shark. I've never seen anyone talking bad about Gabriel. Like he attacked two people that the community love. Like
Right.
out of nowhere, like man, like Baby Shark was probably eating pizza at home
Right.
and watching that, and he was like, "What?" It's like, "What are you talking?" Like, you know what I mean? Like he decided to literally like just screw up his win and his image, instead of just walking out respectfully and earning like the like, and just I think he took away the brightness of his win. You know, like
And the other thing, like with Gabriel, like I talked to Gabriel the week before. It would be one thing if because I try to ask athletes, how do you think it's going to go? What's the series of events? If Gabriel was like, I'm going to walk in there, I'm going to beat his ass, and blah blah blah, and because that guy's a little bitch and he whatever. Okay, I kind of get it. But Gabriel was like, uh, yeah, I'm gonna pass the guard. I'm gonna try to submit him. But everything was kind of with the undertone of, but I respect Mikey is such a good competitor. That's
yeah,
what I got from him. And then
yeah,
when you watch the press conference again, if Gabriel is getting up and throwing his water bottle across the stage and like yelling at the crowd, and okay, it kind of makes sense. But when you look at the press conference and you look at the lead up, and then you get that reaction, you're just kind of like, man, you're so damn good at what you do. You're so talented. Why can't just take a W as a W?
yeah. And that's one of the things that maybe he missed someone to tell him, hey, just guide him through it, and be a advisor there, guide him through it, and
Maybe he needs a
like,
manager.
yeah, like, or somebody that just, hey, this is what we're gonna do, this the because that plays also that not a lot of people realize that, like, a lot of people when they go to interviews, like, they spoke with somebody before that advised them on that interview. Like not everything the fighter just, and I'll tell you about UFC, in jiu-jitsu, everywhere. Like the fighter just don't come out of the things out of nowhere. It might be things that somebody that the marketing person or the manager or somebody helped him come out with that, you know and to be appealing for a next match, or to be appealing for a next fighter, or not to lose the brightness of your victory, just like just like Mikey
Yeah.
did, in my opinion. People were talking about the post interview more than they were talking about the fight.
Right.
Like, you don't want that to happen. You don't want
No.
that to happen.
I mean, even you look at the biggest example, like you take Connor and Floyd, right? You look at the whole buildup for that event. I mean, it was insane, right? They were taking trash talking to like the highest level. But what do you see after the match? There's that mutual respect because you understand that they were selling a fight and then
Exactly.
fighting. Those are two different things.
Yep.
And I think it's a challenging thing to navigate. And as a fan, you're along for the ride. So it's always fun when you get a lot of build up to an event and there's some trash talk and it makes it exciting. But at the end of the day, when you have any kind of respect for how difficult these sports are, how much goes into every single training session, at the top level, they're all good. They're all talented. Everyone is super, super good. And they're all working really hard to be there. So it's nice when you see that mutual respect, even if it's brief. You see two people, hey, they embrace for a second and they move on, or whatever it is. But you see that realization that one sees the other as they are. They're two athletes putting their absolute bodies on the line to be there. It's just a little unbecoming when you get that type of end to a match. On the flip side of that, Cade, right? Cade wins. He beat the shit out of this guy, submits him like super fast. It was so sick. And they interview him afterwards, and Cade's stock just goes like this. It's through the
Yep.
roof, right? You're like, yes, you are representing jiu-jitsu. You're representing mixed martial arts. You respect your opponent, but you're an absolute savage and you just dominated him. It's just two completely polar opposites in post-fight interviews and
Yep.
what they do for the athlete in the eyes of their peers, but also the fan base.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm like, you don't need to be friends. Like, we don't need to be best friends with everyone, though.
100%.
Like, but we need to respect. The respect needs to be there. And if you want to sell the matches, like we were talking about, we want to sell the matches first, and start. And if you're the kind of person that does trash talk, and if you want to do that to sell the matches and all that, man, the match doesn't keep selling afterwards. Like, the match was sold, the
So
match
true.
was sold. You sold the tickets, you sold the pay-per-views and everything, and now on to the next. Like, on to the next. The respect needs to be there. They're both great competitors. And hey, one thing I'll tell you: 1-1. It's 1-1 now. Hopefully, we get rubber match there, and we get to see who's gonna be the winner on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a exciting time for grappling. There's so much going on. It's a growing sport. It's cool to talk to managers like yourself, people that are on the flip side of it, actually doing the business side and representing the athletes, and they can see the growth from the business perspective. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be on here. It's been awesome getting to speak with your athletes. I look forward to chatting with more of them in the future, and I really appreciate this. Thank you for joining, Samir.
No, of course. Thank you for the invite. I've been following your work, so it's been pretty great having seen Gabriel, Natiali, and of course, hopefully, more of them come to your show, because definitely, it's definitely pretty very nice, and the cuts that you do, it's very nice too. So it's always like it's putting great work there, and always like to support that too. So thank you for the opportunity
Well,
too.
thank you, brother. Hey, friends, Abe here. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode and sticking around to the very end. If you want to support it, leave a 5-star review on Spotify or check out www.maynideapodcast.com. Join the mailing list and stay up to date on all things The Main Idea, from future guests, sponsorship opportunities, products that I'm using to help me perform at my best, invites to ask me anything, and any upcoming pertinent information to the show. I cannot do this show without you. It is literally why I show up each week and put these episodes together. So thank you from the bottom of my heart from being part of the community. I hope you have a great day.